Righty, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Kuro Games is dialing down on the final notches when it comes to 3.0's release, because on Twitter over here, we've got the final details of the first limited character's signature weapon. It's going to be Lynae's, and it's going to be Spectrum Blaster. And what we're going to be doing in this video is actually breaking down what the value is of this weapon, given Lynae's kit, her potential, and of course, the other existing options you'll have in the pistol class. Because one thing that's for certain in this game is that when it comes to weapons, you want to make sure that you are spending your pulls in a good spot, especially given all the new free-to-play options that we're going to have available that are a lot stronger than we anticipated. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it. But before we begin, if you're looking to pull Lynae or her weapon and are thinking about purchasing some lunite, you'd probably like to save some cash. LD Shop is a fantastic way of doing that, and I'll show you exactly why. LDshop.gg gives you access to huge discounts on pretty much anything you can buy in a ton of games, but let's click on Woowa for now. The monthly pass? Usually it's $5 dues, but on LD Shop it'll be much less. What a deal! To claim one of these discounts, just select the item you're looking for and click Top Up to submit your payment. You'll need your Kuro linked account email, password, and username. This might seem a bit off, but remember that LD Shop already works with sensitive account information with their emulator, LD Player, so you can trust them for their services. They also have excellent reviews on Trustpilot. If you created an account with Gmail or Facebook, use the directions in the top-up menu to link your account to an email. After finalizing your payment info, wait a couple of minutes and your items will be on your account. New users can get a 10% discount and an additional 5% using my sponsored link, and first-time top-up bonuses are available as well. That means you can get some big discounts. Spending $80 or more will net you a VIP membership, which can get you a free 30-day Lunite subscription. So try LD Shop today. The very first screen that we're going to be taking a look at over here when it comes to Spectrum Blaster is, of course, the base stats. Because the base stats of a weapon, ladies and gentlemen, are one of the most important things ever. And this one's going to have a base attack of 587 and a crit rate of 24.3. As you can see, that's a pretty typical breakdown, a pretty typical blend for a weapon. Nothing that stands out, nothing that's going to be too crazy. You can expect some pretty average level of performance. But we can get into some of the specifics, though, when it comes to base attack differentiations, though. When it comes to base attack, weapons are pretty much spread out in a bunch of different ways. You can have higher base attack and lower critical stats, or lower base attack and higher critical stats. Carlotta's weapon, for example, is one that has way lower base attack, but much higher crit. And so what that means is that if someone's using Carlotta's weapon, chances are they're not going to scale as well from things like percentage stat buffs, like what you might be seeing, right, on something like an Echo, like this 18% over here, or, you know, like this 10.1% that you're seeing from a substat. On the other hand, if you're having like a higher base attack weapon, maybe somebody's like Augusta's that has like 675, then that character is likely going to scale a lot more with some of those percentage damage boosts or percentage attack boosts that are going to be in the game. Overall, I don't think it usually has much of a difference in the actual performance of a character, whether or not they're using a higher or lower base attack one. But just keep in mind that with better critical stats, which you find on lower base attack weapons, the characters are typically easier to build. It's a lot easier to build around a weapon giving 36% crit rate than a weapon that gives 12.1%. So that's just something to keep in mind. You'll get a balanced blend over here of both worlds compared to on one extreme or the other. We've gotten past the base stats. Now let's get on and talk about the weapon skill. And this is going to be the bread and butter of this bad boy. The weapon skill is called Attendance Exemption Protocol. And if you're familiar with Lynae's lore, where her lore is her skipping class by turning invisible because that's her forte ability, that's pretty fucking funny. Anyways, that's probably the best flavor text I've seen for a weapon effect in the game, so great job, Kuro, with this one. Now let's actually read what it does. Increases attack by 12%. Very, very, very typical sort of first line. It's actually the identical one that we see in Phasic Homogenizer. So yeah, they're one-to-one over there. Right off rip. Now let's read the effect. Casting intro skill or hitting the target with a basic attack increases the wielder's basic attack damage by 36% for 4 seconds. Let me just say this. Lynae will have permanent uptime on this ability because almost every single attack in her kit deals basic attack damage. And with the duration of only 4 seconds, it'll still be fine because she constantly will be refreshing it across her rotation. However, 36% damage isn't really that much compared to other signatures because, well, all I need to do is pull up Carlotta's on the side and you'll see, well, she gets 48%. So, well, there's got to be something else to spice up the deal, right? Each time the wielder inflicts Toon Rupture shifting or Toon Strain shifting during basic attacks, all damage dealt by resonators in the team is increased by 8%, up to 3 stacks. Effects of the same name cannot be stacked. Essentially, this weapon turns into, assuming that you're able to max out this 8% buff, it turns into 36% basic attack damage and 24% to the team. However, it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. A big part of Lynae's kit is that she inflicts Toon Rupture or Toon Strained or Toon Shifting, all this stuff, right? She inflicts it closer to the end of her rotation. And so what I mean by that is I'm actually going to pull up her actual character sheet. The way that Lynae inflicts these Toon buffs is essentially through this mechanic over here called Photochromic Flux. So basically, within Lynae's kit, Photochromic Flux is what inflicts these Toon Rupture, Toon Strain, Toon Shifting abilities. And the unfortunate part about how this weapon is laid out is that Lynae activates the full extent of those buffs a little bit closer to the end of her rotation. Because these skating plunge attacks are essentially where she inflicts that photochromic block or that photochromic flux on a hit. And so for like these damage buffs, yes, they're nice, but I'm not sure how much of them Lynae is going to benefit from as a whole, because I think this is how it's going to break down. Her intro skill inflicts Photochromic Flux. So she'll get that 1-8% right when she enters in. That's cool. But unfortunately, I think there's a good chance that it only stays at 8% until she gets to the latter half of her rotation. So it's going to be closer to her being at like 44% because she's going to have that 8. And then from there, right, it builds up to that full 24%, that full 60% when she gets to like the final hit at the end of her rotation. That's still going to be pretty good though, because as a whole, she'll end up with a total of 60%. And when you compare that actually to other weapons in the game, like it is just straight up a larger bonus. However, we will just have to see how it actually works in combat. Because I don't actually know now how much damage Lynae is going to have on her abilities if there's going to be this much actual buffs in here. Because her motion values might now be balanced by the fact that she's going to have these buffs built into her kit. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, it's a 44 to 60% versus a consistent 48. Similarly though, right, we have had characters where their signatures look really strong. And it looks like they got some big damage bonuses, and then the character doesn't actually deal that much damage in practice. So we'll see. The main thing about Lynae is the fact that she has main DPS potential literally broken out in her echoes. And I think that's where stuff is really going to feel different. I think that when Lynae is on Pact of Neon Light Leap, and she's meant to be a sub DPS, I really don't think, even with her signature, I feel like she's not going to do that much damage. However, when she's on Rite of Gilded Revelation, where you're getting basic attack damage to increase Spectro, and then with max stacks, using your Liberation increases basic attack damage, well, think about it this way. Maybe this is when her signature, you really start feeling its damage boosts. Because one thing that you'll notice over here is that you want to build up your stacks before using your Liberation. That means that Lynae will actually have to sort of like delay her rotation a little bit. She'll have to delay her rotation a little bit, right? To actually like fully build up its effect on that second Sonata set and then use her Liberation later on to get the basic attack damage bonus. And when you see over here that she's got like some shortcuts as well in her kit, I'm interested in seeing what her performance is going to be on this signature compared to other options. Because right now, I already see how this is going to work out really well with both of her forms. And it does look like one of the strongest signatures in the game. However, though, we do have to start taking a look at its competition for Lynae. And I think this is going to be a conversation that's the most important versus something, you know, a little bit less important, like talking about the other uses of this on the roster. The first and foremost competition that Lynae's signature is going to have are the new standard ones that are in the game. And the first one over here that's going to be a big piece of competition is, of course, going to be Phasic Homogenizer. Because this bad boy basically has... It's very similar to a limited 5-star in terms of what it does for a character's damage potential. So it has 587 base attack, 488.6% crit damage, the same 12% attack bonus over here, and when a Resonator in the team uses a Tomb Break skill, which every character in the game, by the way, can use a Tomb Break skill, that's why Yang Yang's being shown over here as the demo, you just gain a 20% all attribute damage bonus for 14 seconds. So this weapon over here, you might not get its damage buff on the first rotation, but when you do get the damage buff, like, goodness gracious, it's basically just like a full-on DPS weapon. I'm 99% sure Lynae, when she's in her main DPS mode, right, and she's meant to be used on Rite of Gilded Revelation, I'm like 99% sure she's going to absolutely blow shit up with this standard weapon. I don't think you'll need her signature if you want to play her as a DPS. If you want to play her as a sub DPS, I also don't think you're going to need her signature, and the reason for that is simple. You have this weapon called Static Mist, which essentially is like one of the best sub DPS weapons in the game because it gives ER, has amazing base stats, and then also increases your outro skill recipient's attack. You're basically going to just fully be able to stack up the effects of Static Mist with this outro skill that increases attack. So now you're going to be like a Giga attack buffer as well with that built in. So you got that going on. You got this with the other standard weapon. How can you justify pulling Spectrum Blaster? The answer is you kind of can't unless there's one edge case. And this is the one edge case, ladies and gentlemen. It's for this part of the effect over here. This is going to be the ceiling for Toon teams. This weapon, in my opinion, basically has as much pull value as Shorekeepers. This is going to get you from 95% to 100%. If 75 pulls is enough for you to take all of your Toon teams from 75% or like, 90% of their potential to 100%, go for it. However, 90% is already excessively clearing all the end game in the game by like 20-30 seconds. And so from going to 90 to 100%, you're now like clearing 30 seconds faster instead of 25 seconds faster. And if that's what you want to do, go for it, right? Don't let me stop you. But if your goal is to like get value, maximize value, this is a terrible weapon to pull because you already have literally free options. You have literally free options that already get the job done, and they will get the job done very, very, very well. Like, extremely well. To the point where pulling this means that you're going for just the pinnacle of performance. It's very similar, right, to pulling something like, fuck it, it's similar to pulling Lupa's signature, where the main reason why you're pulling this is to give a 24% fusion damage bonus to the team, which if you don't have this, your team's not that much different. The main reason why you pull Chakona's signature is so you can reduce arrow resistance by 10% for all of the enemies. When you don't have this, it doesn't really matter. The team performs almost identically. Her weapon is basically just like a Lupa sig or a Chakona sig. Completely unnecessary, but it'll save you like 5, 6, 7 seconds on your team's clear time. Is that worth it? For some people it is, but for a lot of others, it isn't. That's why you see a lot of Chakonas running around with Static Mist, right? And that's why you'll see a lot of Lynaes running around with Phasic Homogenizer or Static Mist instead of this thing. And that's why I said when Kuro was making this, they had to make the weapon effect really, really, really fucking strong. And this weapon effect is possibly, actually, numerically the strongest in the game, but I still don't think that's enough to offset how good your free-to-play options are. And so the end take that I'll make is, if this is for Lynae, wait and see. Try out the standard free-to-play options first, and then decide if you need that extra push from going for this one. And that would be my professional advice. Now, let's change the script a little bit. We talked about how good this weapon's going to be on Lynae. Let's just say you're already guaranteed to pull it. You already want the best for Lynae. You're enamored with the fact that this thing looks like a Game Boy. The nostalgia calls out to you. You love it. So you're pulling it. Let's just talk about how useful it could potentially be then, right? Let's talk about how useful it could potentially be in the hands of other characters, because this effect over here does seem pretty general. First things first, we gotta think about characters that might actually deal damage with their basic attacks as pistol users, because that's the main impact of this. There are basically no pistol users on the roster that deal basic attack damage. The only one that kind of does is like Chisa with her dodge counters. So Chisa does have the best dodge counters in the game, so I guess if you're playing dodge counter Chisa, this weapon is cracked. Actually, I think Alto as a DPS actually does basic attack damage too. That's also his main thing. So, yeah, I guess if you're going DPS Alto or Chisa, it's fine. But that means you're playing DPS Alto or Chisa, which is, like, akin to self-harm in 2025. So, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, like, I guess it's only usable for Alto or Chisa. Mortifi does liberation damage, so not really for him. Any other pistol users? Carlotta deals resident skill damage, so no, not her. And Chacona kinda deals basic attack damage, but she's mostly liberation, so not really. And Galbrena deals heavy and echo, so not her either. The end result kinda is, I think this weapon as a stat stick is mainly meant for DPS characters. I would say Chacona's probably the best limited user of it because she actually can benefit from the basic attack damage boost. So that's going to be the stat side. So I guess there are technically 3 users. Now though, let's talk about something different. Because you might be under the impression, wait, what if they just don't even deal basic attack damage? Because what if there's a future 3.0 character that can inflict Tune Rupture or Shifting and they're a pistol user? And so if I equip this weapon on them, I'll be able to get the 24% basic attack damage bonus, right? This is the thing. The wielder needs to inflict Tune Rupture, Shifting, or Tune Strange Shifting during a basic attack. And so if there's another pistol user that inflicts these, they could just inflict it with their heavy attack. And then this weapon would work. I think the wording in here is specific enough so that only Lynae's probably going to be able to apply this. And so even if you're going at it from the perspective of, well, I'll pull it for Lynae, and then I'll have another pistol user in the future who will be able to apply this debuff as well, and then I'll get the 24% team buff that way, that's probably not going to work. So I am just, in terms of like usability on other members of the roster, I would be a little bit hesitant to weigh my hat in one way or another for the second half of this mechanic. But for the first half, I think it's good for Alto or Chisha if you want to play them that way, which is, again, like, whatever. And it's going to be somewhat okay for Chacona, but for everyone else, yeah, it's going to be worse than static. It's going to be identical. Actually, think about it this way. For the characters that I just mentioned, think about this weapon and how it could be usable on them. Because chances are, even if I were to, like, pull this and try to use it on other characters, I'd also have to question why I'm not using the standard weapon on those other characters, too. Because, like, on most pistol users, the new standard weapon is actually going to be better than this one. So, yeah, I think literally only on maybe Alto, then, is this, like, actually better than just the standard weapon? Because on Chacona, the standard weapon's just better. On Shisha, this weapon's just better. On Carlotta, this weapon's better than... Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. So, wait and see for this one. I don't think any player should be pulling this on day one. I don't think any person should be pulling this on day one. Just wait. Just relax. See how the other options do, and then make a decision to pull this one closer to the end of the banner cycle. Otherwise, I see a lot of people just, especially potentially, right? Think about it this way, guys. You can make this R5. You can get this to R5 for free. And hypothetically, right, somebody could be on the mindset of, I'm just going to get this standard pistol to R5, because then it's going to get 24% attack and then 30% all attribute. That's kind of usable on every character in the game. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, just some food for thought as we head into Lynae's overall banner. Now let's just wrap this up and talk about some of the specifics. You will need new mats. for this, ladies and gentlemen. You will need new forgery challenge materials. So don't try to pre-farm for this. There are already people that have. And so if you're spending like solvents wayplates right now to do it, don't. Because the best you'll be able to do is convert 2 to 1. So if you have solvents, just wait until the patch fucking drops so you can get it 1 to 1. Like, this is the level of retardation that I don't understand. Like, I have somebody in my chat over here saying, but I could just convert. But I could just convert, though. Brother, have you ever converted ever in your life? Like, you would know after converting a single time that you need to spend 2 to get 1. So, like, you're over here being like, because I don't want to wait, I'm going to reduce my output by 50%. I don't even know why I'm covering this. That'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.